start off by just saying thank you to everybody for being here. This is sort of a new venture for MassAccess. You know, if you remember, we did a few webinars back when we were all shut down during COVID. But we are deciding to sort of bring them back. We're finding, as you know, that in-person events are not as well attended as they used to be, but we do want to continue to provide educational opportunities for our membership. And just to give you a little bit of the background on this particular webinar and the content in it, I was a programmer before I became an executive director, and I did it for a lot of years. And as I go around looking at some of the schedules on folks' website, you know, I look and I see some things that I think are pretty easy to fix. And it dawns on me that maybe the training isn't there for young programmers the way that it should be. So I'm going to try to start from the very beginning. We're very lucky to be joined by some professionals in the field today. So I just want to start off by recognizing all of the MassAccess board, most of whom are here, I think. Myself, Katie Duvall, Jonathan Grabowski, Nancy Albertson,
What did you say?
How do I go back to the regular
Chapman,
notes on Final Cut?
A.
Don Boshin, and Liz Harkins. And if you guys can please just make sure you're muted unless you want to ask a question. And if you will, you can usually just type a question into the chat or use your raise your hand function once we get to a question portion of the presentation. I also want to introduce some of the panelists that we're joined by today. From Castus, Nathan Bossler is the president of Castus, and Elliot Wesson is the director of sales.
Greetings.
Hey,
Thanks for
everybody.
being here, guys. Appreciate it. From Cablecast Community Media, Michelle Alamorati is the marketing director, and Kayla Creamer is the customer service manager. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
And from Telview, Jesse Lerman, the president and CEO, Charlie Page, the regional sales manager, and Brian Albertson, the director of engineering, installation, and training. So those
Thanks,
are
David.
all of our experts who are joining us today, and we appreciate all of them for being here. The name of the webinar is Mastering the Art of Television Programming and Why It's Still Important. And again, everybody wants to, oh, you can go ahead and introduce me, Maeve. There's me, in case you forgot what I looked like. There I am in a circle. Okay, and you can go to the next one because we don't need to sit here and stare at me. Just go back one more time. I just want to give our vendors their due here. Thank you to Castus and Cablecast Community Media and Telview for being part of this today. It's really important to us that we have a good relationship with those folks, and we do appreciate them being part of everything. So starting things off, everyone wants to be streaming. Everybody wants to be on the internet and have all their content available on demand. But let's not forget that community media was founded on cable television technology. And that technology really isn't quite dead yet. A quick Google search will tell you that somewhere around half of US households still subscribe to cable. And yes, as residents get older, they're more likely to cling to the older technology. Around 20% of US residents in their 20s subscribe to cable, while nearly 55% of folks 65 and older subscribe. But to me, the issue stays the same. Why are so many of us seemingly indifferent about how our audience views our content? Cable channels are becoming an afterthought and a little bit of a dumping ground. So I'd love to see that change, and hopefully we can get you going on that today. One sec, let more people in. So let's start today's discussion. We're going to discuss not only why you should care about your traditional cable channels, but also how to improve your scheduling from the very basics to the more advanced techniques. From planning to promotion, we'll cover the techniques you'll need to put together attractive content lineups in less time than you might think. And again, representatives from Castis, Cablecast, and Telview will be in attendance to answer your specific questions about your specific workflow. And they're actually going to all take a turn giving us a few tips and tricks for their specific platforms. And we look forward to hearing from them in just a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about the television schedule. And what you may or may not know is that for decades, the way that Americans experienced entertainment and information is pretty much in the opposite way of how you do it today. The network or the networks would decide what time they were going to air content. And if you wanted to see it, you needed to get your butt in front of the TV at a certain time. And this led to what we call appointment viewing. Some of this actually still exists. So you can think about live sports. They're not going to wait to tip off that NBA game until you get there. So they'll give you a time, and that's when it starts if you want to watch it live. While streaming companies often release a series by season to create this binge watching phenomenon, old folks like me had to wait a week or more to get a new episode of a show that we loved. Those were the days. The other thing that scheduled programming leads to is what we call the flip factor or channel surfing, which was a phenomenon of the 1980s describing jumping from channel to channel with your remote control, trying to find a program that you liked. And this sometimes led to more viewers on the community media channels, as residents might happen upon a person or a place that they recognized when they hit that local access channel. We don't get much of that anymore. Television then was a little bit more predictable. And if that show that you liked was on last Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. when you sat down and turned on that station, chances are a different episode of that same show would be airing at that same time on that same station. This is how most older adults viewed television their entire lives, and we got used to the concepts that we'll cover. So let's talk a little bit about time slots. You can see the slide there describing it. To me, it's only logical that if you were to release an episode of a series program every week, you'd do so at the same time and on the same day. Some really smart folks did some research and came up with what they call prime time hours, between 8 and 11 p.m., when the networks could count on the most viewers. Traditionally, these highly rated shows would be placed in that 3-hour window. Some nights were better than others as well. So, for example, Stranger Things actually aired during the time where the show supposedly takes place. It would probably be airing Thursday nights at 9 p.m., smack in the middle of prime time. In community media, it was no different. The most popular shows were often given these preferred time slots, and many local programs preferred to go live during these times when the most people would be available to watch. So I think that we have to start with preparation. I think the mistake that a lot of people make was just sitting down and starting to drag and drop shows into their schedules. And this haphazard practice can make your station look unorganized and unprofessional. So I want to start with prep, and then we'll move forward to actually putting the schedule together. Take the time to try to understand your audience first and foremost. Maybe even send out a poll. Find out which programs or style of programs that are popular in your town. Find out when your audience is most likely to be looking for these programs. This is called establishing your target audience. By knowing a bit more about the habits and tastes of your audience, you're more likely to get folks to tune in. Next, you should create a list of the series programs produced at your facility or by community members, even your staff. You'll want to note the title of the program, the subject matter, and the runtime. It's probably important at this point to also consider how you're labeling episodes. For example, if I had a show called Winchester in the Know and I put episode number 9, that means very little to a prospective viewer, right? But if I put Winchester in the Know, episode 9, The Dangers of Vaping, for example, that's much more descriptive and it's going to attract more viewers. We're going to talk a lot more about your outward-facing schedule in just a little bit. The next thing you should probably do is identify some reliable import programs. There are very few of us who can boast that they only air content created in their municipalities. And if they are, they're probably repeating that programming an awful lot. This practice can also turn people away. Think about it. If you flip on the channel and you see that same show over and over and over again, you're probably not going to go back to that channel. Import programs can be acquired from a lot of different sources. Files can be downloaded from Cablecast's Peg Media or Telview's Media Exchange. And there are streams that can be plugged directly into your server from sources like Free Speech TV, Classic Arts, even YouTube TV. If you're unsure about your options, put out a question on the MassAccess forum, and I'm sure our members will be able to help you out with that. Imports are a great way to supplement your homespun programming while keeping your channels relatively fresh. Next step might be to, I think we did 2 there, Maeve. Yes. Identify your programming day. There's nothing that states you need to run programming 24/7. Sometimes less is more. Based on the desires of your community, which we already established, hopefully, you should probably start to put together blocks of time where you will be programming on each day. If you don't have a lot of programming, maybe start small. Just run programming from, say, 4 to 11 p.m. You could always expand if you think you need more, and then maybe consider starting earlier or running a bit later on the weekends when people might be, spending more time in front of that TV. So there's a couple of different things I want to talk to you about programming blocks. So the backbone of your television schedule is series programming. And for our discussion, let's define series program as any program with the same title and subject matter that gets produced on a regular basis. Okay, so in a perfect world, these are also similar in length or running time from episode to episode. We'll talk about that a little bit more. You'll also have events, lectures, and anything that's documented by your staff or members on a one-time basis, and we're going to call those feature programs, for lack of a better term. An example of feature might be a graduation or a concert or a lecture. Sure, you might have the events happening annually, but they don't happen regularly enough to be considered a series. So this is an example of a blank programming block that I've put together. You can see I just have the days of the week across the top, and then blocks broken up by 30-minute time slots there on the left. And it's just as simple as maybe filling in the blanks there. I happen to do this in Microsoft Word. The next one you'll see is a little bit of, well, we skipped one. The next one you'll see is the blocks starting to come together by inserting the series programs. You can see that there are a lot of blank spaces in there. And those are the spaces that I reserve for feature programs. And you should probably try to leave some space for feature programs during the day, in the afternoon, and then, of course, in prime time too. This last one you'll see here in the programming blocks is actually the finalized primetime schedule that we'll use to promote the schedule. So note the detail in the descriptions. And now, it's a difference between the last one where we just named the programs. This one has a little bit more information because we're trying to provide that for our viewers. And also, we're listing the channel numbers on the page itself. So, you can always, you don't assume that people know where to find you. So I'm listing, this is for the public channel. I put the channel numbers on there on the different carriers. And for scheduled up, for updates on the schedule, you can always go to that link to find more. So this is just an example of sort of a finalized one, and you can do this week to week to help you promote it. So series programs can be copied and pasted week to week, and new episodes can be swapped when available. I used to like to premiere new episodes of series programs during the first week of the month. It was just a good way to sort of keep track of all those new episodes of a different series. I'd like you guys to keep the following in mind. First of all, give preference to your local shows. Primetime slots should be given to shows produced in or about your city or town. Use the imports to fill in the gaps, or use it for lead-in program. A lead-in is a program that is in similar content to the next one in the schedule. If you go back a few here, Maeve, go back to one more. You go back to this one, you take a look at Thursday morning. You can see I was running both import shows, both were called Off the Shelf and Book Stew. That's a good example of a lead-in. So Off the Shelf is a book about reading and reading books, and so is Book Stew. So I lumped the two of them together because if someone really liked one of them, chances are they would like the other one. And chances are they'll stick around on your station. And that's what you really want, is to keep the eyes on the station. Lead-ins can also be used to establish attractive time slots. So, for example, if you know that you get a good amount of views on your 7 p.m. re-air of city council meetings, that space just before it, whether it's at 6 p.m. or 6:30 p.m., becomes even more valuable, right? Start programming at the top and the bottom of the hour, guys. I can't stress this enough. People are accustomed to doing things at a certain time. You know, it's just weird to tell a viewer that a show that they want to watch will begin at 7:17 p.m. or some crazy thing. You don't set up a meeting for, 4:34 p.m. So why would you start a program? It's hard to promote your programs. Start them at the top and the bottom of the hour. Based on that, you should tell your producers too, and even your staff too, that too short is better than too long. So if you have a specific time slot, it's always better to be short. You can fill in the rest of that time slot with PSAs or station IDs or different things. But if you go over that time slot, just think about it this way, and you're pushing everything back. If you have a 33-minute episode in a 30-minute time slot, everything behind that is going to be starting 3 minutes late. And that pushes everything back and it makes it more difficult for you. So try to keep your producers within their time slots if you possibly can. Public service announcements, station IDs, little musical montages. Be constantly on the lookout for these short videos. We often have them on our platforms, or you'll get them or produce them from local nonprofits. They're great to have. Just always have them so you can plug in between shows to round out those time slots. As I mentioned before, leave some primetime space available for your features. You don't want series programs to fill up all your best time slots, because in a perfect world, you're going to leave some open space for features. And consider giving your series programs 2 or 3 time slots per week. If one of your top series airs, say, Wednesday at 9:30 p.m., why not give it a morning and an afternoon replay? 4:30 on Fridays and Monday and morning at 10. Consider a late night slot if you carry programming after midnight. And be responsible with the content. None of us censor programs, but most of us have policies around the content of programming. So keep adult programming away from times where children might accidentally stumble upon it. I know that's probably far-fetched because most kids aren't ever turning on cable, but you never know, right? So let's try to be responsible about that. At this point, I want to pause a little bit because it's a natural point. I want to pause just a little bit and see if you guys have any questions. I guess you don't, which is good. That's okay. All right, so I'm going to keep moving. We can now move on to the schedule creation, right? So we've done all that prep work. Now it's time to move on to the schedule creation. Get ahead of the game by programming at least a week in advance. When I was regularly programming, I'd put together the schedules every Wednesday. Most times it took all day to do it, and sometimes it would go into Thursday morning. On that Wednesday, I wasn't putting together the schedule for the next day. I was starting with next Monday and putting together everything through the following Sunday. right? So I was at least a few days ahead. That way, if anybody checked the website to see when a show would be running, there would be actual data there. So try to stay ahead of it at least a week if you can. I also had a policy that if I didn't have the program in my hands, and yes, for those of you out there, we used to have these things called tapes and DVDs, right? And that's how you got your program, is people would physically hand you a program. I know that's not the case anymore, but I wouldn't schedule a program until I had it in my hands. This is because I was often promised a new show, and then I promoted a new show and then didn't receive the new show. There's nothing wrong with a to be announced in your schedule or just leaving a section blank until you get the new show, but you will lose viewers if you are not actually airing what you're promoting. There's a certain amount of trust there. Make a list of the features that you received that week. That could be 0 or it could be 7 different shows, but make that list and note the run times. You're going to want to start putting the puzzle together. Remember, we started off with the series programs being sort of the spine of the whole thing. Now you can start to take those feature programs and plug them in different places. I used to keep a list so that when a new feature premiered, I would give it 2 to 4 runs a week for about 4 to 5 weeks before I retired it. And you could always bring a program back if you need something down the line. It's really important to also identify evergreen programming. This is stuff that really doesn't get old, right? So there's a producer here in Winchester, for example, who creates documentary style content about the history of the town. That stuff is always useful to me. It's history, right? So it's not going anywhere. It can always be used. So I keep it around on the server just in case I need an extra hour. I'm not saying I air it every week, but there's stuff that you can put on every once in a while, and you're always going to have success about that. Something that, maybe has to do with Medicare laws or something like that are going to change annually. You probably don't want to keep that stuff, keep airing it over and over again. If you're short on programming, look backward, right? What were you airing a year ago at this time? Or maybe you weren't in the position, so you might not know all the things that you aired. Most of these servers, I know you can go backward and look what you were doing a year ago. Is there anything that you could pull up? If someone covered the spring fling or whatever it is last year, but not this year, maybe just air this year's or last year's, sorry, if you're looking for something. You can also air a previous version of an annual event as a primer for your upcoming event. Always a good idea. You know that thing is coming up, so you air last year's a couple of days ahead of time to get people thinking about it. Get ahead of your slower times of year. You know you're not going to have things like high school sports in the middle of July. So instead of just dropping those things in there for the 30th time, why not get ahead of things and start to plan what you'll air there in those slots? Can you foster new production, or should you be targeting more imports for that slower time of year? Start to think of that well in advance. Backfilling is a different concept. So say you get the 2024 version of the high school chorus concert and you want to premiere it Saturday night at 8 p.m. You have the bright idea of running the 2023 chorus concert right before it, and that's a great idea. But when you look at the runtime from last year's, it's 39 minutes. In that case, it's probably best to start last year's at, say, 7:10. These, I said earlier, you don't start it at odd times, but 10 minutes, you can get away with that every once in a while. Maybe you start at 7:10 and fill that 1-minute gap with PSAs. The mistake that a lot of people will make is to start the old one at 7 o'clock and then the new one at 7:40. Don't do that. Give the new one the preferred time. Or you could start the old one at 7 p.m. and then the new one at 8 p.m. But don't forget, now you have a 21-minute gap where you have a lot of potential to lose those viewers. Have a fallback plan. All servers are going to have contingencies so that you're not showing a blank screen on the air, should you not be actively playing or streaming content. Some stations use a community bulletin board style graphic scroll, or some use some sort of live feed. If you do have access to station IDs or community bulletin boards, it's probably preferred since you don't really have the control over what plays on any particular streaming source. So to make that a little bit clearer, if you have, like, say, free speech TV set as your fallback, and you decide to cut back to your continuity after 55 minutes, your viewer is actually only going to catch the last 5 minutes of whatever program free speech was airing at that time. It just causes confusion, and it makes you look like you don't know what you're doing. It makes it look like you made a mistake when you did everything right. So try to fill in that time as much as you can, and make sure you have a good plan for falling backward. And you are the one that actually created that programming day. We talked about that. If you should try to fill that with as much programming as you possibly can. Try to retain their viewers. As I mentioned before, it's good practice to try to amass a bunch of different short videos that you can use to fill gaps in your schedule. So again, if you have a 28-minute program that starts at 6 p.m., don't go to continuity for 2 minutes. Fill that gap with station IDs and PSAs. Remember, you're the one who set up that programming day, so try to keep it consistent. Again, I'm going to pause for just a second before we get into promoting the schedule, just to see if you guys have any questions or comments at this point. You can go ahead and raise your hand or just chime right in or put it in the chat.
Can you just go back 2 slides? I missed the bottom of 2 slides ago.
Sure. Is this the one, Teresa?
Yes,
Okay.
just.
We'll have all this available after the fact too, but.
Okay,
And I think our folks from the server companies really, the folks from the server companies can certainly give us a little bit more information on how they fill up that. I know in certain instances they call it continuity, and what happens when you're not actively sending content out. What's that backup plan? I'm sure we can get back to that. So any other questions before I move on to promotion?
David, what are some good resources for PSAs if you don't have enough that are created by your own station?
That's a terrific question, Katie. I have often used the Ad Council. If you can set up an account with them, and they have PSAs there too. I can actually look, because there was one other one, and I should have looked at this before. Trying to remember where I used to download a lot of different PSAs. I would actually also recommend just producing as many as you can. We often have interns that are looking for stuff to do. Let's send them around. Just get them, doing short musical montages or something, of flowers growing downtown or something like that. Just put it together and slap your logo at the end of it. And if it's 2 minutes long, that's probably really, really useful. If it's 20 seconds long, it's probably also useful. So sometimes when I'm out on my walk, I just shoot quick videos with my phone, and then I'll get back, put some music under it, put the logo on there, and I use it. I have different IDs, channel IDs for all the different 4 seasons, right? So send people out there in the wintertime, get some stuff, spring and summer, obviously. And, it's easy to create that kind of stuff, and I always try to send interns out to do that because it's usually pretty simple. There was a couple of questions that John was sending me in the chat, and I want to try to address them. one of them was about, several shows and how can they start at the start of an hour. More specifically, it can be difficult for feature shows to start at the top and bottom of the hours. They're not always half hour. Yeah. Um, it's it's definitely hard when you have a lot of feature programs because sometimes the length of the actual event dictates how long the program ends up being, right? Um, so that's where you have to kind of fill in. You have to get pretty smart. I'm not averse to starting programs at say 15 past the hour or 45 past the hour. I think we can kind of get away with that. So every once in a while, I mean, if you have something in there, if you're like I said earlier, if you're starting something at 10 minutes past the hour because you have a 39-minute program, it's okay if it's in the minority. If most of your programs start at the top of the hour or the bottom of the hour, then a few random ones that start at odd times is going to be fine. But if they're just all haphazard, then you've got a problem because then it looks like you just don't know what you're doing, right? Any other questions before I move on? All right. Let's talk a little bit about promoting the schedule. And this is, to me, just as important as creating a solid schedule is actually promoting it. Because if no one knows where your programming is or how to access it, you're only doing half the job. To me, promotion doesn't start when the schedule is finished. The proper promotion of your schedule starts when the program is ingested to your server. Okay. All the server companies offer external schedule vehicles, but the schedule people end up seeing on your website is only as good as the data you've entered. And this is my number one pet peeve, I think. To me, if you have bad data on your schedule, you're better off not even showing your schedule. A bad schedule is worse than no schedule at all. So let's talk a little bit about how we can address that. File names versus program names. Check with your specific vendor to figure out from where the schedule data gets pulled, right? So there are all different fields when you're entering a new program into your database or loading a new show onto your server. Well, where is the external schedule pulling from? You need to know that because we all have a different way of naming files, right? But what works internally for you in your file system may not necessarily translate on an external schedule. So you want to make sure that you know where the data is coming from so you can enter the data in the proper fields so that you can ensure that your audience is getting the most information of when things are airing. Don't be afraid of detail. You want to attract viewers to your channel, so give them a reason to watch. Episode numbers of series programs are great for keeping track of how many shows have been produced, but they mean nothing when they're on their own. And also just listing a guest on a talk show without giving any information on the topic isn't a way for people to get excited about watching that program. Unless, of course, they know exactly who that person is, and that's going to be few and far between, I think. This is really important, guys. Know what not to list on the program schedule. PSAs, station IDs, we were just talking about all that stuff. They're great for filling in your empty space, but they don't belong on your external schedule. All the different vendors can talk about how to exclude those files from your external face. If you're showing that stuff up, it just pops in this 30-second PSA that's probably, got some crazy little name to it. It looks terrible on your schedule. So make sure you know how to exclude those from your public face. Make sure that your schedules are easy to find on your website. People have a ton of viewing options these days. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but they're not going to spend a lot of time searching for the programs if it's not easy to find. You need to meet people where they are, all right? Many centers will promote their schedules on social media, but you can also go with the old tried and true paper listings. Again, think about the older adults in the community. Maybe they go to the senior center once or twice a week, right? And if you can ask the senior center to have some of your schedules, like the block that I had in my primetime public channel, have those available. Somebody might pick one up as they go out the door, and now they've got that. They put it next to their chair, and now they know if I want to watch that program that I like, or if I want to see that lecture that I just watched, I want to see the replay of it, I know when that's happening. So don't be afraid to get out there and self-promote a little bit. If you have episodes of series programs that are new or feature programs that are airing, you need to get out there and really let people know that you're doing these things. Make your shows an event. It's really important that you do that. We're in a position where, the traditional cable viewer is not going to be around, forever. So, we need to make people aware of what we're doing on our channels, how they can watch it and where. So always do that when you can. I'm just going to end the share for now. We'll do more questions. But I just, to close out, and you can stop sharing for a second. I just want to say that I think that we all understand that we're in a fight for the future of our existence here. And your website, your channels, these are your outward faces. Sometimes this is all someone knows about your organization. I would say that actually probably most people, the only thing they know about your community media organization is what they see on your website and what they see on your channels. So we've really got to get on this. If we expect the general public to support us through troubled times in the future, we need to make sure we're offering quality services. And I hope you'll take this instruction to heart. Questions at this point, or do you want me to hand things off? Now that I stopped sharing, I can actually see you all. So if you raise your hand, I can call on you. No questions? You're all so shy. Okay, we'll move on. It's time for us to get into more detail about the products that you're actually using. Each of these participants is going to walk you through some quick tips to make your programming life a little bit easier. First up, I'm going to introduce the marketing director from our friends at Cablecast Community Media, Michelle Alamorati. Michelle, please.
Thank you, David. Yes, I'm the marketing director for the Cablecast team at Tightrope, and we're very happy to be a part of the presentation here today because as you may or may not know, with Cablecast, our #1 priority is to make it so that you can write once and publish everywhere. So in these details that David's been covering today, where we talk about, adding those extra details to your video title, making sure that your schedule looks good as it's promoted outwardly, making sure that people know when they can schedule shows when it's appropriate. Those are all things that we definitely take into consideration as we build features into Cablecast. And I'm very happy to be introducing my colleague, Kayla Creamer, who is really the best at it. Many of you probably know Kayla. She's been working in Access here in Massachusetts, or there in Massachusetts. I'm not in Massachusetts, but Kayla is. And she was a program director in Amherst and also at Billerica. And she's been working with Cablecast for a really long time. And she's also just really great at getting the most out of any tool or resource that you give her. So when it comes to making a workflow efficient, she can really tell you how you can do something for your cable channel that is going to propagate to all other platforms without causing you a lot of extra stress, a lot of extra work. And I want to just quick mention that she did a really in-depth presentation for Cablecast users on these topics not that long ago. We're not going to get that in depth today because of time, but I will drop the link for any Cablecast users here that want to do the in-depth tour of this in the chat for you. And before I toss it over to Kayla, I'd just be interested if you guys want to do a quick vibe check with me, like drop an emoji in the chat that represents how you currently feel about scheduling your cable channel. And let's just see what the spectrum of emotions are that we get. So as you think about that, I'm going to turn it over to Kayla, and you'll see me again when we get to the Q&A portion of the presentation. So take it away, Kayla.
All right. Thanks, Michelle. As Michelle mentioned, my name is Kayla Creamer, and I'm a customer success manager with the Cablecast support team. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to be kind of breezing through some of these things. If you have any questions, you can ask during the Q&A at the end, or you can reach out to the sales or the support team with Cablecast, and we can further address them offline. So the first item that I want to touch on here, based on some of the points that David made during his presentation, is our auto schedule feature. And if you've kind of outlined your schedule and determined that a lot of your programming is kind of repetitive, the same shows air on the same days and times, and you've been scheduling those manually, the auto schedule tool might be a better tool to make your workflow a bit more efficient. I know in public access, we're always wearing a lot of hats, looking for ways to save time, be able to do other things, and this tool might help you. So we're going to take a quick look here at one of our auto schedule rules. And for this particular example, I'm going to use our Perils for Pedestrians rule, which is scheduling out our Perils for Pedestrians series. So if we look at the details here at a quick glance, we can see a few things. This rule is being scheduled on our PEG TV channel. So if you have more than one channel, you can set up auto schedule rules for any of your channels. You can also set up auto schedule rules for recordings, and I'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. We can also see that this program is scheduled to run at 11 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And for the fill type, we're using a top search result. And what that means is we're using a saved search, and that saved search only contains the Perils for Pedestrians programs. In this case, the latest episode or the top search result is the Perils for Pedestrians special. But if we were to get another episode this afternoon and ingest that into Cablecast, that would then become our latest episode, and the auto schedule rule would automatically schedule this out with our latest episode from today going forward. So it's a really handy tool. You can kind of set it up and not really have to do anything with it again. It's automatically going to take care of any future episodes of that series for you. I do want to talk for a moment about some of the other fill types here. So if we edit this rule and we come down to the content section and we look at what we're filling this rule with right now, this particular rule is using the top search result, but we also have the choice to choose from a random search result, which is going to tell Cablecast to pick a random show from within the saved search of our choosing, and then it's going to schedule that show. We can also choose a single show. So if we have a particular show that we want the auto schedule rule to always run, we can choose that show ID, and it's just going to continue to schedule that out on an ongoing basis until we either delete the rule or come in here and select a different show. The last option, which might be the most useful for those of you who are maybe doing city council meetings where your city council meets on a regular basis, maybe the first Monday of the month, the new show copy existing show record option might be a good option. What that will do is you create basically a template show with your metadata, and then you select that show here, and Cablecast will create a new show record from that template show and schedule that out on the day that you choose. So if it's the first Monday of the month, it will make the new show record and schedule that for you. You can also choose to record the run as well. So if you want to make a recording of that, you can set that up here. And then you can also create another rule that would auto schedule all of your replays of your meetings. So it's a pretty powerful tool that can save you a lot of time. We have a lot of customers that are using it, and some of our customers are doing the vast majority of their scheduling with auto schedule rules. The next thing I want to talk about briefly is copy and paste, which kind of goes hand in hand with the auto schedule rules. So if you have a schedule where maybe you build out your schedule for the week and you run that same schedule for a month, you could schedule all your programming on, let's say, the upcoming Monday, and then you want to copy and paste that programming to the following Monday. We've scheduled all our programming in here. And if we click this checkbox on the top left here, that'll select all of our programming for the day. And then we can click copy and we can navigate to another date in the schedule. So it could be the following Monday or it could be any other day of the week. In this case, we'll say next Monday. And then if we choose the paste option and we choose paste original, which means that we're going to paste all of those runs we just copied to the exact same air times that they were scheduled on the original airing date, that's going to paste those right in here. And we can do that with the rest of our week. So copy and paste is another really helpful function to have. The next feature that I want to talk about is network streams in Cablecast. And for this, I'm going to use one of our customers up in Bedford, New Hampshire as an example. They have a pretty good relationship with the surrounding stations. And so the other stations will cover the sporting events in their area, and then Bedford can use their network streams. So it could be an RTMP, an HLS, and they'll be able to schedule this out on their own channel. So if Merrimack called them up or emailed them tomorrow and said, hey, we're covering a football game next week or a basketball game on our educational channel, all Bedford would have to do is create a show record using the Merrimack Education Network stream and schedule that at whatever time they want to go live. If they don't want to go live with it, they could also just record this to their network encoder and be able to replay that at a later time as well. So it's a great way to be able to share content from other stations if another station is going live and they're using some sort of a network source to do that. You can also use it for things like we have customers pulling in Free Speech TV or Democracy Now! Or I know Classic Arts pulled their content from Dish a few years back, and a lot of stations were trying to figure out how they could still continue to air that. We have a lot of stations that are pulling in the Classic Arts feed as an HLS stream and broadcasting that on their channels. So a lot of different ways that you can use network streams. The next item I want to touch on is for the customers that are using Cablecast CG for their bulletin board, we have dynamic bulletins. And if you look at this zone on the left-hand side here, underneath where it says Your Town TV, you can see that we have a program dynamic bulletin set up here. And that's pulling in our schedule. And once it's set up, it's dynamic. So there's nothing else you need to do. As you add or remove or change things in your schedule, this will update automatically. So if viewers are watching your channels in between programming, it's a good way for them to quickly see what programming you have scheduled for the next few days. You can also schedule short PSAs or station IDs here if you wanted to as well. And we have some customers who are doing that. The last item I want to touch on, kind of on a similar note, is our internet channels. And these are basically turnkey websites that include your schedule. Again, this is dynamic. So once you've set up your internet channel, you don't need to do anything else. Your schedule will automatically get pulled in here. It also includes your video on demand content. And if you have a Cablecast live stream, there's a watch button that takes you to the live stream. But the item that I really want to highlight here is you can also create internet channels that are not necessarily linked to your cable channel. So if you have a producer who's producing a regular series or maybe one of your town or city committees, and you want to be able to create a turnkey website for them without having to have any web design knowledge, you can create internet channels that are specific to certain programs. And that's a great way for your producers to be able to promote their content on social media or on their website or wherever it might be. And they have everything right there. It's just their shows, and it's a great way for them to be able to highlight that. So with that, I think I am just about out of time here, but as I mentioned, there will be Q&A. So if you have questions, feel free to ask there, or you can reach out to the support team or the sales team at Cablecast, and we can address those questions as well. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to David.
Thanks, Kayla. That was great. Really cool stuff you got there. At this point, I'd like to hand things over to Jesse Lerman, who is the president and CEO of Telview. Jesse, you're up.
Thanks, David. Hello, everyone. I'm going to bring up some slides here to review tips and tricks relating to all the best practices from the Telview perspective. So give me one moment to share my screen here. Okay, great. Hopefully everyone can see that. Great. So thanks again for joining, everyone. And thanks, David and MassAccess, for such a great webinar and topic today. I'm also joined by Brian Albertson and Charlie Page from Telview. So what I was going to do here is try to focus on reviewing key tips and how to use the Telview platform to achieve the programming best practices that David reviewed. So there is a lot of material to cover here in a short time. So I'm going to really not go too deep into anything. It's going to be more about quick hits to try to raise awareness so you kind of know the art of the possible and what you could explore in more detail. If there is interest, we'd be happy to organize separately an in-depth review webinar for anyone interested. So hold on one second here. Okay, great. So just in terms of resources, I do want to point out that the Telview website is a great resource, of course, for more in-depth information. Likewise, on the website itself, you definitely want to find the knowledge base. And the knowledge base is fully searchable as well. So any topics that you learn about here and you're interested in, I invite you to visit the knowledge base and where you can, search and really go in depth. All right, so also a little bit of a spoiler alert here. I think the key takeaway, I'm going to run through a lot of different things, but the most important thing to walk away from this is if you're not already using the series and series scheduling feature in the Hypercaster, you should be. It'll save you a ton of time and really help you unlock powerful automations and workflows. So first, a few tips regarding understanding your audience. So for those using the Cloudcast platform, Cloudcast has integrated viewer analytics and reports built right into the Connect CMS, and that can give you valuable insight into your viewers and programming. Reports include things like daily and hourly views, viewership trends, viewers by city and country, by app type, live versus on demand, and all that good stuff. So again, great way to get, some immediate, insight into your viewers when they're watching, and that might help you with your schedules. Another quick tip is to leverage overlays to do things like on-air QR codes. Easy to do, and at least it might give you some way to get some stats on cable viewership, because that can be tricky, and a nice way to get some viewer feedback as well. So moving on, some tips on reliable import programming. So one here is Telview Connect and the Media Exchange are both really great ways to bring in more programming for your station. Connect itself can be used like a broadcast file Dropbox for your station to get more programming from contributors and producers. And then Media Exchange is great for getting programming from peer stations across the country and other producers such as daily Democracy Now! Episodes. One challenge adding more programming sources is that can mean more time to schedule. But one thing that's really nice is the Hypercaster has integrations directly with Connect and the Media Exchange, so you can fully automate sharing programs up, downloading programs, and even scheduling. And that goes for MMX as well. So if you have a Hypercaster, you can integrate with automatically receiving or sharing to the MMX. And that's MassAccess's dedicated programming sharing portal. That's a great way to add more local programming, and you can check out new episodes right on the MassAccess website or within Telview, the Telview Connect Media Exchange. One important tip when it comes to the Media Exchange is, and the MMX, is to try to organize and syndicate your programming as series rather than just miscellaneous individual shows. This allows everyone else to subscribe to the series, and then they automatically get every new episode, and even makes it possible to automatically schedule each of those episodes in assigned time slots using the Hypercaster series scheduling. And another note is consistent file and metadata naming is very important for that as well. You should be very consistent. Live, of course, is another great source of reliable import programs. And the Hypercaster supports just about every live and streaming source out there. So that means all modern protocols, including NDI, Secure Reliable Transport, HLS, RTMP. And RTMP includes push and pull, so you don't need expensive restreaming services just to get live events into your station. You can also easily broadcast peer station streams and events, live events from social streaming platforms like YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and Vimeo, Classic Arts Showcase, and all that good stuff. Moving on to tips regarding series and programming blocks. As I mentioned, series scheduling, that's the key here. It'll save you a ton of time putting all of your regularly scheduled live records and replays and playouts as well on autopilot. That works for all live sources and files, and will also unlock other powerful automation workflows. So for example, once you've set up all your series, you can do things like, anytime this series runs, I want to show this news ticker, or when this series runs, I use a now playing next up branding design that's specific to that series. Or maybe episodes of that series you want to automatically send up to archive.org, or you want those events to automatically stream to Facebook and YouTube. You can unlock all that power once you're organizing everything as series. And series allows you to easily manage your episodes, including adding, deleting, reordering. What's cool is live sources can automatically record new episodes directly into a series, including with auto expiration if you want to clean house and you don't want old stuff sitting around. And what's neat is with the archiving feature, whether you're archiving to your network attached storage, to the cloud, to archive.org, you can just simply reschedule an older episode and have it automatically retrieved from wherever it's archived. Other powerful workflow options, there's really a lot you can do with series, but one cool thing you can do is automatically generate program placeholders, including with templated automatic metadata. So we often call those TBD records on the Hypercaster. You can do that with one-offs or for entire series. And that allows you to schedule far in advance, including with metadata, so your guide is good to go even when you're waiting on episodes to come in. One tip, if you're creating a lot of placeholder records and you don't want them all cluttering up your content library, you can go to the config section and set a default for how far ahead to show these TBD records. For example, you may say, hey, only show me a week's worth. I don't want to see a year's worth of this stuff. And when it comes to these TBDs, and David brought this up as well, one thing that's nice is the Hypercaster has a missing files report. So David, I know you usually say, I'm not even going to schedule it if it hasn't come in. But what's nice with the TBDs, you can see very easily what is missing and even get an automatic email alert as you're approaching airtime if that program hasn't come in. And you can set that default window like 24 hours in advance, 48 hours in advance. But also you can be sure that the Hypercaster any which way can be set up to automatically fill missing episodes, whether it's just showing the most recent one or, of course, always backfilling to continuity. And the series scheduling itself is highly flexible. It supports adding multiple time slots. You're not limited to rigid patterns. There are different rules you can apply, like most recent, nearest recorded, patterns, where you can set up really sophisticated patterns of how to loop through, programming, and even random. So this allows you to easily assign a series to multiple time slots per week, morning and evening. You can include gaps such as, no school sports in the summer, complete flexibility. We're also really excited about the imminent Hypercaster 8.5 release, and that has a completely redesigned calendar scheduler, really focusing on speed, efficiency, and a seamless mobile experience. And one thing that's really cool is the 1 week schedule view, where you can schedule right on this view as well. It's also a great way to visualize the backbone of your programming schedule, and you can highlight all those series right on it. In addition to series scheduling right on your Hypercaster, TelView Connect itself offers some really cool workflows where you can offload scheduling directly to your contributors. So you can assign your contributors their own time slots and let them self-schedule in those pre-assigned slots, either with or without moderation. So if you have a lot of contributors and it's kind of tricky coordinating, getting all those submissions, that's one thing you can consider, is have them submit and even do some self-scheduling through Connect. You'll save a ton of time. Now I'm going to move on to some tips around schedule preparation areas like features and evergreen. In addition to series, the Hypercaster has recurring scheduling, which is kind of like series for one-offs and individual items. And one thing that's nice too is, what if you have a feature that now conflicts with something you had scheduled as a series? you can set it up so it will just automatically create what's called an exclusion. It'll knock that one series episode out of the mix to give room for your feature. If you change your mind later, you can pop that feature episode right back in. Categories are really important, a great way to leverage both the categories and advanced search to easily find things like local programs, evergreen, filler, PSAs. So you can fully customize the categories, and they can even be hierarchical, and that's a great way to easily find what you're looking for. The key thing here, and David alluded to this earlier, is each category you can set up whether anything in that category is included in your program guide or not. So that's a great way. If you categorize all your PSAs and fillers, you can schedule them however you like, and you're not going to mess up or clutter up your important viewer-facing program guide. So series is certainly the key to consistent scheduling. And some other tips. This one I'm going to just spend a little time explaining a feature called program segmentation, which is actually a feature we just recently released in our cloud-based FAST, which is free ad-supported TV channel platform. So this particular feature we're going to be bringing into the main line soon, and we recognize it could be really valuable for community media as well. But what it lets you do is you can take a program like a 28-minute show, and you can add in spots even throughout it. So if you want to add bumpers to the beginning and end to pad it up, or maybe even throughout, you could say 5 minutes in, I'm going to have 1 minute of spots. So it's usually done in pro broadcast to give time for ad breaks and ad insertion downstream, but it could be very handy for kind of normalizing all that programming as well. Now on to some tips around schedule creation. So when it comes to filling schedule gaps, the Hypercaster supports an integrated community bulletin board option that can also show program guides automatically, fill gaps with images, videos, squeeze back news tickers, program guides, and more, all with background audio. Or for a fully featured multi-zone, multi-user community bulletin board, of course, we have InfoView, another great way to autofill gaps. And continuity is key here. Continuity allows you to fill these gaps automatically, whether you're using your integrated bulletin board or InfoView. You can use any live source, playlists, and files. But one tip here is you can consider, if your bulletin board hours are more regular, consider scheduling those using recurring and series rules, and that frees up your default continuity to just be a playlist of promos and PSAs. So you basically don't have to bother filling anything at that point. You can really let it just fully automate and save a lot of time. Also regarding backfilling, the block copy paste is a great way to do this. You can copy an entire day, an entire week. You can save those blocks and give them names for easy recall. Another thing you could do is update an existing series and add additional time slots to it. Maybe you've run out of some, programming to fill some slots. Well, go to a series and you could just say, you know what, add these time slots as well, and boom, it'll fill those automatically. Other core features to the scheduling are, of course, very helpful. Things like copy paste, block copy that I mentioned, multi-select drag and drop, conflict checking, automatic rippling, and fitting to gaps as well. Another cool thing I wanted to highlight here is also in the upcoming 8.5 release. Another way to save time and expand programming is by distributing the scheduling workload. So the upcoming release adds granular user roles. For example, you can have a live event manager that's assigned to a volunteer or camera operator, and you want them to only be able to manage live events and they can't do anything else on the schedule. Or maybe you assign scheduling access to only specific channels or even event types. Now, real quick, want to cover some tips on promotion. So overlay rules are very important here. This is a great way to automate graphics, including now playing next up announcements, program guides, teasers, all that good stuff. And you can make it fully automated. It's also a great way to sell sponsorships. And the automatic program guide schedule that the Hypercaster will generate is fully searchable. You can embed it in your website. One other key tip I wanted to mention is make sure you're using the modern responsive version of that. There was a legacy version that had been around for a very long time, and sometimes we see customers are still using that. So make sure you're using the newest version of that guide embed on your websites. There's also an option to enable additional details. That's in the configuration per channel, and that allows users to click on the program names in the guide right on your website and pull up more rich metadata. So you may want that option as well. The guide can be included directly in your Cloudcast player to display alongside your live streams. So that's another tip to set that up. And kind of a final note on accessibility, which we really haven't brought up. Of course, your programming should be accessible so everyone can watch. And you may want to think about adding TelView Smart Caption, which makes it really easy to live caption your channels. It supports live translation for even dual language live captioning, including English and Spanish. It can translate to over 100 languages for your on-demand as well. And another really cool thing, because as David mentioned, searchability is important too, not just promotion. So with Smart Caption and Cloudcast, all of your meetings, for example, becomes fully searchable. End viewers can search on the caption transcripts themselves to find topics of interest within your long council meetings. And just a quick shout out, we're going to be at NAB in West Hall, booth 1143. Would love to see you there. And with that, I thank you so much for your time and really appreciate it, everyone.
Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate it. Next up, we're going to hear from Nathan Bosler. He's the president of Castus. Nathan, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Wonderful presentation. So thrilled to be here. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Shout out to MassAccess and some of our customers in the room. Thanks for joining. Hope you guys are really enjoying the program. So quick little poll. You can raise your hands. You can put in an emoji, whatever you want. Who knows the most popularly viewed item on Netflix? Can you guess? It would be the home screen, because you can never decide what to watch. And that's one of the idiosyncrasies I found, with these streaming platforms, is it's not as straightforward as traditional cable. So what I found is pretty fascinating lately, actually, is because I consume and watch a lot of TV and cable as well, and streaming platforms, is these streaming platforms like Netflix are now starting to debut content at a certain time and date. So you might go find your favorite program, it's just the thumbnail, and it says coming soon, Friday, March 22nd. So I think that's pretty cool because it's taking some of the philosophy of traditional cable and really evolving it in a creative way so that they're actually captivating the viewer audience and getting them to join at a certain time. A hunch of mine also thinks that they're trying to actually lower some of the bandwidth of some of these massively watched programs. But nonetheless, I think it's a pretty cool way to go about doing it. Now at Castus and a lot of our customers, we like to try to replicate what's happening in this bigger broadcast world, like for the Netflixes, the Disney Pluses, the Maxes, those sort of things, and bringing in some of the functionality that they do and just replicating it so that your viewing audience is more familiar with your operating environment and your scheduling and your programming. So one cool feature that we offer at Castus, among others, is the ability to debut your live videos and live streams at a certain time and date for your web playback. You can also do that for your cable channels as well. But this gives viewers at home not only just a good understanding of what's coming up and when, but then also notified with the notification that's direct engagement with your end users so that they know these programs are now available. We find it very valuable to be able to actually connect with your viewing audience because, as you know, just expecting them to know when to tune in and remember what time it is hard in our busy lives these days. But if they're getting that direct engagement, that direct notification right to their device, which, as we all know, we all have that on us all the time, it's a great way to ping those people and say, hey, we're live now with the pertinent meeting. Hey, this show is now newly available. So this is a really cool option that our customers have, and they're finding it very powerful and really taking advantage of it. So I really enjoyed the presentation, David, how you broke down scheduling. At Castus, we have the saying, as we all know, content is king, but automation is queen, meaning that having a good scheduling format and a good procedure is important and imperative to your station's operation. Not only just having it documented, but having all your staff members trained. And I won't cover too much of that because Dave did a wonderful job breaking down the schedule and what it should look like. But that regularity is what gives your viewers the ability to regularly find the content that they're searching for, knowing that it's scheduled at those specific time slots So having that format in play is really powerful. Now, the CASTA system, whether you've seen it or not, we've done a lot of really major improvements throughout the industry. And in the platform itself, in the interfaces, you know, our background is in scheduling playback for a lot of city government channels. We really took out a lot of these tedious steps and made it really super simple, straightforward. Upload, schedule, and play. And when you're playing, that means play to cable, play to VOD, play to web streams, play to OTT. Of course, we support captions and translations and all that good stuff. But that simple philosophy is upload, schedule, and play is really important because we're all running in a very fast-paced environment. So having that ease of use to be able to just upload a show, no transcoding, click and stick it into your time slots with ease, and then bing, bang, boom, you're playing your content and you can go back to producing content or go home for the night, which all of us want to do after a long day of producing meetings. So another key factor I want to highlight on is organization. Having an organized library is key. And what's great about our system is it allows you to create folders and subfolders like you're used to on any of your computers, Mac, Windows, very small percentage of Linux users, all have a file-based folder operation so that you can create stuff, migrate, move, delete, rename. And that's what's really one of the core foundations of CASAS that makes it so stinking simple, is it's just really easy to organize your content and have everything archived in a very simple fashion. Last but not least is being IP capable. Now, we've all touched on this today. You know, back a few years ago, it became very popular to share IP feeds from town to town. Now, this is really cool for, say, example, if you want to pull in feeds like Democracy Now!, you can just pull that in over IP with a various number of different formats supported, HLS, RTMP, SRT, NDI, the list goes on and on. But this is also hugely important for that content is king, for stations to be able to share content with one another. Say you got your town football team, but they're not playing in your city tonight. They're going to be actually in a different city and they're televising it. So good news, you don't have to go out and set up all the cameras. They are, but you could just get that IP feed from their system and plug it right into your server and then transmit that live football game on your channel too. You can record it and televise it later or record it and air it live. So this is really great because this is taking a lot of burden of having to go, what type of shows are we going to create? Or, you know, when you look at the 24-hour, 7 days a week, it could be a pretty daunting process. So having that ability to exchange with other communities and towns content, whether it's just in the library for playback, or you're giving other towns and organizations your feeds, it's a great way to stay bonded as a community in the public access world. So I want to hand it over the presentation real quick to Elliot Weston. He's our Director of Sales here at CASTAS, and Elliot's going to talk about a few other talking points so you don't have to listen to me the whole time. But it's great to see you all. And Elliot, here you go.
Thanks, Nathan. Pardon me, my internet has been going in and out here today in Texas. So if I die, please understand it's been a crazy day. I just jumped back in. I'm not sure exactly what Nathan had said. Just wanted to have Nathan bring up the UI and show you what we have in our system to be able to address some of the things that David was talking about earlier, as far as the ease of scheduling and things of that nature. Everything in our system is based upon our library system where all your content resides. It's basically a folder system that allows you to see everything in your system from one place. Your main content, and you can create folders within the system to move things around and make sure that everything is in its place. You can easily find everything in your system. And right from the library, you can actually pick any piece of content and launch that on your channel immediately. So if you wanted to take the piece of content that he's talking about now, just hit yes. And 3, 2, 1 on the air channel there, it is just aired. So simple as that. If emergency situations, people need to get something on the air quickly, you don't have to go through lots of machinations to try and get something on the air in an emergency. That would go for bulletin boards, emergency crawls, and things of that nature. If we go to the schedule page, one of the things that David was talking about earlier was actually creating blocks of time in your schedule. Within our system, you can actually create blocks of time, either for existing content or content that hasn't been encoded yet, or even brought in for a live meeting. So you can actually have placeholders that you can dedicate different colors to and represent the different meetings and different slots of time for your programming. You don't have to have, as you can see above the prime time, there's 2 empty slots for the end of a regular meeting. There's nothing in there yet. Nothing's been recorded. As soon as that's available in the library and as soon as it's uploaded, literally, you don't need to create any other metadata. The meeting is already there. You can just then add it to that block of time. Simple as that. With those blocks of time and the entire schedule, if there's nothing scheduled, the system will always default to the bulletin board or content that you create to fill those gaps within the schedule. You can have emergency crawls, you can have different bulletin board information, or you can create a playlist, if you like, of content that would fill the gap could be randomized. You can have it play in a specific order. It's totally up to you how you want to do that. Also, what was shown, obviously, is to be able to ease of use of be able to replicate days for numbers of days or weeks or months for that matter. Well, it's basically bring up the schedule replicate, pick the days you want to replicate that schedule, hit replicate, and it will put all of that information into the meeting or into that day's schedule that you had previously done. This can be done for each day, each week, or months, or you can have a schedule that's always running, an expansive schedule that runs all the time. So you can have one schedule that's running literally all the time. Some of the things that were mentioned earlier also is being able to have your schedule displayed on your website. As you can see here, this is our web portal that allows you to have your live stream playing with your entire schedule below. You can also have situations where if you want to make these watchable immediately, you can have watch now buttons. So if you didn't want to wait till 3:55 to watch this piece of content, brings it up immediately and you can start playing it right back there on your computer or phone. As Nathan was saying earlier, we do have push notifications, so you can actually inform your viewing audience that new content has been uploaded. Within the portal itself, you can create basically, there you go, sending out notifications to iOS. The system will automatically stream to Facebook and YouTube as well. We do have closed captioning available within the system where you have captions which can be spelled out phonetically, making it so it doesn't make any mistakes in the future. I know we're kind of jamming here, going back and forth. My apologies for not being on the entire system. Here you can see your all of your inputs in one glance on the left-hand side of the screen, as well as your outputs. You can see here's an HLS stream that is streaming right now. You can put it to air just by a simple click of a button onto any one of the channels within your system. You can, from this page, you can actually start recording and or start captioning this program. And if there is captioning present, you'll be able to see, not sure on this stream if there's captions present, but you'd see whether there's 608 or 708 captions available to be seen, as well as translations in other languages. If you go back to Akaku's webpage there real quick, Nathan, just wanted to show the fact that this is their player page. You can go to the home there and you can see all three of their live streams, as well as they're able to have their featured line there where you can it'll automatically populate their website with the latest and greatest of the content that they uploaded. You can also create playlists of different content within their website. You can actually have this little switch there for actually light or dark mode. I thought that was kind of cool. So take your choice there. And if you want to just click on live there, you can quickly click on and navigate to your live streams. Again, with the schedule available below and all of the content there on the right-hand side. Want to jump back real quick into the content library if we could. And just point out the fact that when you go to any of your content within the library, you can basically click, well, actually, it was the library in the live feed. I'm sorry, Nathan. Right, wanted to show the content and to be able to show that in your, basically our cloud portal allows you to see all of your content and how it's labeled within the system to know quickly if it's viewable right there, if there's closed captioning present, if you have translations. You can also monetize your content as well. I'm not sure if we can click on that real quick and to show those fields, Nathan, that as far as the monetization. There you go. So just as easy as if you wanted to charge somebody $20 to watch something or even to download. So if you were doing local events, a high school basketball game or something like that, where you wanted to be able to monetize that and ask people if they want to download their kids' baseball game or football game, you can actually monetize it and have more of a revenue stream for that. Even involving school districts and things of that nature, bringing in other people to share your content with and able to monetize that and have another revenue stream from those other entities that you might not have thought of. Within the system, you can do indexing, basically adding chapter points to any video. So existing content or live content, meetings, things of that nature. If you have an agenda, you want to upload an agenda and actually chapterize that meeting, it's available within the system. No additional costs to do that. It's all built into the system. Nathan, jump in anytime you want.
Yeah, I was going to say another huge major factor for staying relevant and ensuring that people are able to see the most recent programs. What we have our customers really love is what we have as our go live and expiration functionality. So this allows you to upload slides and videos, in advance for holiday programming all the way up to, at the end of the year, New Year's, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever holidays it might be. And you can have go live and expiration dates. That way you can get them put into playlists, put into folders, even put into the schedule. But the system won't play that stuff until it's officially going live or expiring. So this allows you to really stay relevant and pre-create as much scheduled content and programming as you can ahead of time so that you can rest assured knowing that the schedules have been built for the rest of the year. Another point I'd love to touch on too is, David really mentioned having a schedule format built. And that's what I really love about this scheduling format in general inside of Castus is it's just really similar to David's example in the PowerPoint, where you have the 7 days of the week. And this schedule is designed to loop, which is perfect for PEG, perfect for government. Of course, you can have a calendar view option, but with the looping feature of the 7-day, what we call a weekly schedule, this ensures that at the end of the week, it just loops right back to the beginning. So now you only have to just worry about scheduling for Mondays and Tuesdays, which is typically when our meetings are happening, live event coverage. And then the rest of the week is replaying, airing of your recorded content. So this is a really nice feature. And again, just brings it down to a very simplistic mode. So you can just upload, schedule, and play your content really, really easily. All of these things that I'm showing too with our playback technology is all in one box. And that's something really powerful that customers love. There's no encoders or decoders required, no external devices. Of course, it can control routing switches or network attached storage. But when it links to the cloud for OTT platforms like Roku, Fire TV, iOS, and Android, VOD on your website and live streaming, that's 100% cloud-based. So you don't have any additional equipment in your rack or taking up power or rack space or just that cost of that equipment or the worry of it ever going down because it's streaming to our cloud and that's where viewers access all your content. So when people want to watch, they're watching off a cloud CDN from Castus. So you don't ever have to worry about your network usage or your internet connectivity. All of that's taken care of because this platform, very similar to YouTube, is 100% cloud-based. So this workflow is just very simple and intuitive for users because that's what most people are used to these days is being able to just stream to the internet. And then, the restreaming function is very important too, so that you can hit all those free social media platforms like YouTube and Facebook and be playing to all of them from one-stop shop without the need of copying and pasting RTMP keys and that kind of painful process, because everything inside of the Castus ecosystem is actually happening through login authentication. So you just log into your Facebook account, log into your YouTube account, and when you want to go live, you just go live and end live, and you're transmitting to all of your platforms at once. Another great feature is the ability to record directly to the cloud. So this is awesome because you have a preview video and audio feature here. So you can see when the meeting starts live streaming, and then you can simply start recording that live stream directly to the cloud. And this is much like you've seen on YouTube and Facebook, because now when the meeting is adjourned, you don't have any more process. You don't have to send it to VOD. You don't have to wait for it to transcode in the cloud. It's already available in the cloud. It's recorded real time to the cloud. So the moment your meeting is over, it is available for your viewing public. So again, take something else out of the mix that you don't have to remember what to do before you can call it a night and wrap up the evening. And of course, you know, as video production specialists ourselves, having the ability to trim clips, because sometimes you want to record a little early and you want to record a little late for posterity's sake, you can trim these programs in cloud before they actually get released to your viewing audience. So there's a lot of really time-saving automated features here built into the system that just make your life and our customers' lives a heck of a lot easier. And one thing I always love to touch on, just because we all know going in and editing programs can be time consuming. You know, myself personally, I love Premiere and Final Cut Pro. They're fun tools to work with. But if you can reduce your workflow and not have to render and export clips, Castus Cuts, unique to Castus, allows you to bring video clips right in the server into our full nonlinear editor web browser-based system. And you can create new projects. You can grab video clips, trim them, add lower thirds. If you say you're missing a lower third or you need to add a crawl, and you just bring it all right into the timeline, click, stick, preview it, trim it, cut it, adjust anything necessary, maybe a recessed meeting. And then when it's done, there is no rendering or transcoding. It's just metadata. You just click save and you're good to go and play right on air. So I don't know, Elliot, did you have anything else you wanted to add, my friend?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, if there's any questions, we're always happy to connect. Our customers know from our customer-centric model, we're always available. We've got support East Coast and West Coast. And what's really cool about our support staff is they've all been at stations like yours, executive directors. They've been the programming operators of stations. So when you talk to a Castus technician, you're talking to someone that understands your day-to-day workflow, patient, friendly, willing, and want to work with our customers. We're known as a very customer-centric organization. So the beautiful thing about Castus, I'll leave last minute here, is the fact that it's all Linux-based. So once you have the system, you're set for the future. You're future-proofing yourself because you'll never have an operating system update. And we all know those updates happen at the worst possible times where it doesn't auto-update. That is just not part of our platform. That also means that all of these future updates that we come out with, and any Castus user will tell you we're always coming out with new creative stuff, you'll always have access to the latest and greatest without having to buy a new server at any point in time. As long as the machine powers up, which is server-grade quality equipment computers, you're going to be able to run the latest, greatest update. And we're very proud to be able to say that. And that's been something we've stuck by since day one. So if you want to learn more about this Castus system and learn more about what we're doing and just see some of the features that we offer, we highly encourage you to reach out to us. You can reach out to Elliot or myself, or you can hit us up at contact us on our website. And again, just really appreciate everybody's time and attention. And Jesse, we'll see you in Las Vegas as well. We'll be in the West Hall at NAB. So if any of you guys are at NAB searching around and want us to come say hi, we'd love to see you, give you some swag, shake your hand and say hello. But thank you for your time and attention. Really appreciate everything. And again, thank you, David and MassAccess team for inviting us to be part of this presentation.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys. That was fantastic. Some really cool features, you know, from all of these great vendors. And I will say that I know a lot of the folks that are presented today from all of these companies. And one thing I can say is that they all really care about us as community media professionals and the work that we're trying to do. So, you know, a big thank you to all the folks from Castus and Cablecast and Telview, not just for today, but for always, keeping community media in your hearts and in your minds, and always just sort of being there for us. We really appreciate that. And, thanks to everybody for being here. We are sort of up against it. I want to encourage you that if you have further questions, reach out to these folks if you have specific questions about the platforms. If you have questions, about programming, I encourage you to put it out on the MassAccess forum. That is not just for executive directors and management type of questions. It's just as valid for programming questions and those kinds of things. Or if you want to reach out to me directly, you can do that anytime. I will be repackaging all of this stuff and putting it up on the website in the next week or so. But thank you again for being here. It's been a fantastic afternoon, and I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves and be safe.